Hi there. How are you?
I am well, and I'm taking minutes.
Oh, good. Then we don't have to ask for volunteers. Thank you.
No,
You're awesome. How did you know how to get into this meeting?
so Deborah found it at the bottom of one of your emails. There was a link.
Ah,
It's
okay.
not in the town. Let me
I
make it
know.
highlight. It's not in the town meeting place where it normally is.
I
So I
know.
clicked on a bunch of stuff there, nothing happened. And Deborah emailed, and I did hey, please send a link. And then Deborah was searching around, and she's a very good searcher. Yes, Deborah, you're a very good searcher. She found it at the bottom of one of your old emails.
Good. Okay. She like the one to Dan, I bet. Awesome.
Anyway, Deborah gets credit for this because she was a finder.
Good. Yes, good. All right. So credit where credit is due. Thank you, Deborah.
All right, I just want to talk and make sure that everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Okay,
Can't hear a word, Peter.
thanks, Bob.
Sure. Anytime.
Deborah, we're giving you all kinds of credit for having found the link.
Well, I had to look a bit,
I
but
know, but you found it.
We found it. That's
So the
at the
other thing
bottom.
is, if you download the Zoom application, then when you click on Zoom, it's asks you like to create a meeting or join a meeting. And if you hit join, then all you have to actually do is put in the meeting ID number, and then it'll come up and ask for the passcode. So instead of worrying about whether you have that link or not, if you have the passcode and the meeting ID number and you have Zoom on your laptop, I'm on an iPad. I just click on Zoom and type those numbers in. It just makes it easy.
I prefer a link.
Yeah, the link is
You're asking a lot
Yeah.
from some of us.
I
We
have
should
to
get-
scribble down the little numbers and I have to be able to read them, and they're sometimes quite small, and that's a lot of numbers.
Maybe at some point we should have Zoom training.
oh, good grief. You're in charge.
Yeah.
Looks as though we have a very short meeting. The agenda seems quite short.
Yes, I think we do, I think.
Hope.
We may not even collect a quorum though, because if most people are like me,
They couldn't get in.
I couldn't find it on the town website. So
It wasn't.
Oh,
It's not there.
so it's, well, the link isn't there, but if you go to community calendar,
That's
yeah,
right.
I found it, and the calendar comes up and you click on the finance and advisory committee box for tonight.
yeah, but it's
The
not,
sheet comes up.
it's not
The
there.
sheet comes up, but you can't click on it.
Right.
Right, you
Wasn't
can't click
clickable.
on, right.
I didn't
Not
even,
clickable.
I didn't even get that far.
But
Here.
Bob, if you go to the email that you sent to our lawyer, it's
Yeah.
at the bottom.
Yeah,
So
that,
if
that
you
was,
can do
that was good thinking.
Well, yeah, it was.
Take credit.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
take
but
it.
maybe we should send email.
Ask in the glory. Go ahead.
I did send some email out, but I wasn't specific.
No, you did. You sent it. I found it from what
Yeah.
you said. You
Oh.
said it's at the bottom of one of Bob's emails. So all you have to do is put in Bob and all of his emails come up.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know if Dan's gonna be able to join. He just had, what do you call it?
This is
Cataract
Appendicitis.
surgery.
Appendicitis.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's bad. I mean, that can be. Oh,
Well, yeah, he had it taken out, so I guess it's not bad anymore.
oh dear. Was he in a lot of pain?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to him. I've only texted with him. He's doing fine.
Good.
I just don't know, obviously if he's up for it.
Yeah, please
know how
tell him
long-
that we're sending him our best recovery wishes. Please tell him.
Yes.
You know how long ago it was?
over the weekend.
Yes, yesterday,
Oh, gosh,
yesterday or the day before.
he should be convalescing.
Yeah, this is Dan we're talking about, and Bob knows Dan well, so yeah, Dan is not one of those people to let something simple like this slow him down.
Exactly. Well said.
I mean, he's not going to sit back and eat bonbons.
No.
All right, who's not eating bonbons today?
Dan just had an appendicitis attack, so
Oh,
he's doing well.
good. Happy to hear that. Yeah, it was odd when I went to look for the Zoom meeting this morning and I couldn't find it on the calendar.
We're just discussing that.
Yes, I know. I just discovered all this. And it looks like what they've done is they normally have, a thing that can actually have an actual link in it. And it looks like they
Yeah.
just scanned a document and stuck it out there.
Well, Tony said they were having trouble with the website,
It could be.
so I'll have to ask him about that. Because I love that community calendar. I think that was great.
Yeah.
Us too, yeah, you can always get it so easily. And it has the agenda typically, so that's nice too.
Yeah.
So do we have a quorum, like counting on my fingers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5
6.
plus Allison plus,
What do we
Dana-
need for a quorum? 5?
We got 6.
so we've got 6.
Okay,
Okay.
So we're
Get
gonna,
going. Yeah.
okay, cool. So I think it'll be short. And I think it'll be short. So, all right, so let's do it in order of this agenda.
we have to call the meeting to order.
Oh, I'm calling the meeting to order. So present from the Finance Committee, Bob Vanderslice, Peter Barba, Deborah Warren, Judy Zahora, Dana Sheehan, who else is here? Oh, and we're joined by Allison. Did I say Barbara?
Yep.
I did. Okay, so it is 6:34 and the Finance Committee meeting is in order. And where's our agenda here? Finance Committee book distribution, topics for upcoming town meeting. Well, we're going to do these a little bit out of order, I guess. Finance Committee book distribution. So I've done a little bit of homework. I didn't talk to, but I've been exchanging emails with Dan Script, the town accountant. I copied you on the one, probably the most significant one. And in a nutshell, it sounds like what we're thinking about is possible as long as we're kind of careful about it. He doesn't think that an entirely digital distribution is permissible under the town bylaws, but we could do some sort of a hybrid thing, is the way I read it.
Right. So would that be more trouble than it's worth? That's the question.
I don't know.
I mean, how are the books distributed, or how have they been distributed in the past as far as like mailing? So we essentially, there's a town, I'm assuming there's town clerk has a list of people who are supposed to get the book, or households.
Yep.
And she basically hands it off to Staples office or whatever, and they print the labels and put it on and ship it or whatever it is.
Yeah,
So
I'm not certain. I believe the printing house does it all, but
Okay,
you're basically right. We supply them with the list of names and addresses. I don't know whether we send them something electronically or we send them like sticky labels with pre-printed addresses on them.
yeah, because my thought process on this is, when I read Dan's comments, what constitutes to being delivered, and his comment about making sure that we have actual email addresses. So, for example, we would need to get to registered voters, or folks that are able to vote at town meeting that need the book, and they would need to say, yes, I want to receive an electronic copy, and 2, here's my email address. Then somebody's going to have to take that list and cross-reference it with the list of, that's given to the printer or whatever, to say, okay, here are 150 names that don't want to receive a written copy. They want an electronic copy.
Yep.
So that to me is the extra work that needs to take place. And one, who does that work and how do we get it done so that we don't miss anybody?
You
Right.
know, the more I think about it, the more I'm with Judy. I think there's a lot of overhead and a lot of man hours, or a few man hours, that it probably doesn't justify it, in my opinion.
All right, and Dana, I saw you raised your hand.
Yeah, I kind of want to echo what Deborah and Judy are talking about here. There's a lot of unknowns, and I don't know if we actually have the bandwidth or the time within this committee. And if we think about it, big picture, how much are we really going to save? Because we're still
Right.
going to have to send out a lot by mail.
And I'd like to add that I think it could earn us, unfortunately, and for good reason, a program. I mean, I think people like to have a written copy and they expect to receive it, and not having that happen and having to go through, I think people would be upset with us, and rightly so. They're used to it. I mean, there'll be people who are going to say, yeah, trees, and I agree. But I think people really like to have the actual physical object. It's like reading a book as opposed to Kindle.
No,
Yeah,
Barbara, I would have thought like the last weekend, I thought, that's not so much. But I was at a conference yesterday, and it's a conference that I go every year, and they always have a book, and I use it while I'm at the conference. I use it for the notes. They didn't have a book.
And how
And
did
I
you
didn't
feel?
have it, but I didn't have, I felt ill-served. Thank you very much. I
Yes.
didn't have anything to write my notes in. It
Right.
didn't occur to me, and I felt ill-served.
I just went to a conference like that too. They sent the thing to us like supposedly a week in advance, but then somebody didn't get it to us in time. And then I wasn't able to scribble on the booklet the way I always do. I did
Yeah.
not like that.
Yeah,
And
I,
people
and
do
I,
like
take it,
paper versions.
they take it to
Here's
town
a
meeting
thought.
too. You see a lot of people at town meeting with the.
Huh.
Yeah. So here's a thought, and I don't even know if it would. I'm gonna put it in as a warrant article idea. But what if we had a warrant article, and it was purely to get feedback from the town as to their feeling on electronic versus paper copy. So because you have to vote on the article, the number of votes would tell, like if we said, would you prefer an electronic version, maybe as the question, and we got 600 respondents and 580 of them said no, and the rest said yes, then we would know, that we go paper. It's just an idea. I mean, because I really think that, we're a small group of people who, again, I'm an electronics person. However, when it comes to something like this, I like the paper copy. I like the paper copy. I still have a pile of scrap paper next to my computer that I write my notes and stuff on. So I just feel that surveying townspeople to find out, hey, would you choose the electronic version? We may find out that there is a few hundred people, and I don't know what a few hundred books and mailings cost, but over the years it may sway. I'm not gonna accuse us of being,
old.
of all of one generation, but we are
Gentle, that was
representing.
gentle, Peter.
Yes, I know. I'm trying to say it as delicately as possible. But I can tell you that, my daughter is in the other room and she might prefer, she's a voter and she might prefer it electronically. I don't know. I think as time goes on, I think more and more people would go electronics, but that's just,
Is that your pet dinosaur I see in the background?
Listen, we're grateful that your daughter's a voter because it helps with the
Yeah.
average age of town, just saying.
Right.
So
Isn't it online anyway, though, for people who want it?
can I float maybe a different approach to this, just for
Mhm.
discussion? Suppose we sent out in paper copy a really, really skinny down version of only the vital stuff. So it would probably be like a cover letter, the warrant, our recommendations, and maybe the CPC recommendations only. And then say, if you want all the rest of the stuff, if you want the debt schedules, if you want the 5-year plan, if you want all that stuff, that is available digitally, and you can go to the website, or we'll email it to you, or you can go to the town hall and there are paper copies there. You can pick it up there, or we can arrange to have it delivered to your house. But don't send out 1,700 100-page booklets. Send out 1,700 10-page booklets and make the rest available otherwise.
I like that.
I really
You
like
might
that
have-
idea.
You might have to check with Dan's script on that because one, not everybody has a computer. I mean,
Understood.
and having, I'm going to say having different copies of informational stuff, like basically, okay, we have a slimmed down version, and then you have, well, if you want the schedules, you need to go to town hall and pick them up. That might not meet with the law the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
So-
we would have to confirm that with.
I think at this point, we send out the paper copies and we do a digital copy. And I don't know, maybe not this year, but maybe, maybe we have a question someplace, or maybe it's even at the beginning of town meeting or the end of the beginning of town meeting. Bob, you stand up and you go, hey, listen, we have paper copies that we sent to you and we have an electronics copy. We want to get a little bit of feedback. How do you feel about only having an electronic? If you want paper, we'll send you paper, but we can save, a few bucks and a few trees and just see what the feeling is. Because at this point, maybe there isn't a lot of interest in the electronic copy now. 5 years from now, that could be totally different.
Well, and thinking that through, we should probably have a better idea of how many copies do we think we're going to actually save, and if
And what the cost is.
if it's even worth it. I mean,
Right.
systems
I mean,
are expensive, so
I mean, if it's, I'm just gonna throw out round numbers. If it's $2 a copy and, mailing and printing and everything, it costs $2 a copy and we get 150 people that choose electronic, guess what? We just saved $300. Not a lot of money, but, maybe next year it's $600, or whatever. I think we're probably not at the point where we need to put this in motion, but we absolutely have to start thinking about it, or we should think about it just as, good wardens of, money for the town and trees for the world.
And I think we should offer the possibility of what Bob's talking about,
I agree. I was about to say that.
so that they have some options.
Right.
I mean, a slimmed down packet of, say, 10 pages is certainly going to be cheaper to produce and to distribute.
But to, I guess it was Dana's point, we need to be careful that we don't wind up having two sets of information. So that's going to be tricky. But I don't see that there can't. Let me ask, are we allowed to ask questions like that on the
Yeah, I
town hall
honestly
floor? Can
don't
we
know.
ask a question?
I don't know. I
don't see why not. We theoretically, we're in charge of the meeting.
Oh, well, then we can do what we
basically-
want.
Well, no, we have to see
I
what
mean, I
that.
don't think.
well, the moderator's in charge of it.
Well,
Oh,
the
yeah, that's-
and you know what? Maybe that's a question we have Dave ask. Maybe we ask Dave, hey, Dave, at the beginning, can you just ask these simple questions to see? And again, if Allison, I don't know if you're able to figure out, what exactly a per copy cost of the town warrant is. But if we came up with a dollar amount and said, hey, listen, for anybody that chooses the electronic version, they're going to save the town X amount of dollars and they're going to save a few trees. And at the end of the day, like I said, maybe it's only 50 copies next year. Maybe it's 200 the year. As time goes on, I think with younger folks, as younger folks get involved who are more skillful with electronics, I first see in the future people sitting at town meeting with an iPad looking at town warrant with their iPad. I mean,
You know that Dave would ask it in a truly charming way.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
I think it'd be worth the price of
It'd be
admission to hear
Just
Dave.
to hear how he phrases it. And he'll have
Exactly.
some wonderful example and joke and deep whatever. I mean, it'll be charming.
It
Yes,
will be
But
charming.
it does seem to me that the first step is for you to run it by Dan to make sure that we're gonna be going ahead with this legally.
Right,
Yep.
right.
yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to take some homeworks here. What's my homeworks? Check back with Dan and confirm that the skinny down version approach, just to see whether that's legal. And I can get with Dave Conlon and just ask him how he would suggest we can get a sense of the meeting.
And one more thing too, we couldn't just ask, well, it's good to get kind of a little survey at the town meeting, but we sort of have an obligation to ask the whole town, and
Oh,
that's
yeah, no.
not
I
gonna be-
mean, here's the other thing. Maybe we could put a questionnaire in the town meeting book that says, again, break down the cost. Hey, each one of these books costs $2 to send to you. If you're interested, the, Finance and Advisory Committee is looking to possibly slim it down. That could be an option, or, do an electronic version so that you would be able to, put it on your iPad and bring your iPad to town, or some people may even opt to bring a laptop and basically have that in the town warrant book, so that this year, everybody who's supposed to get a paper copy gets the paper copy and has that little survey in it. And, then at least they're notified that, this is something that we're talking about.
Hey,
Well, I
Allison,
have the cost information from last year. We
oh,
did,
thank you, Allison.
yeah.
Awesome.
So I just looked, we printed 1,800 copies and we paid $16,110. So that comes out to $8.95 a book.
A book that's with postage.
Yes. And,
So-
but that was a large book last year too. I forget how many pages that was. It
Allison,
was
could you give me those?
double-sided.
Could you give me the figures again, please?
Yep, so we printed 1,800 copies of the book, and we use Sterling Printing for this. They've done the printing every year. They do a great job. So it was 1,800 copies. The total price was $16,110. So if you divide that, I come up with $8.95 copy.
Well, I think we should also ask Dan, Bob asked Dan if the slim down some sort of thing would work, because that would certainly be cheaper per copy.
I would think so. I would hope.
Yeah,
so.
but
I
I
mean,
that
even-
would I'm not as fond of that, because then we're not giving all the information that they need.
Right, and I'm
Hi, this is
concerned that
Tony.
if
Hi,
we-
Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Tony, I would just be concerned about, you all know, as we get closer, there's some last minute changes, and
Yeah.
sometimes those last minute changes don't make it into the book. And yes, we have to explain them at town hall, but I wouldn't want to have two different versions of
No,
things.
we
out.
can't. When it goes to press, it's frozen. It's frozen
Right.
digitally and it's frozen.
And again, I use $2. I mean, think about it. If 100 people, that's $895 right there that we would save. I mean, again, I think it might be worth it, at least to get a survey out in this year's book to find out how many people would prefer an electronic copy, and take it from there. Get a feel. I mean, again, if we get 100 that say, yeah, I would do it, maybe it's not worth it this year. But if you got 400 people that did it, that's certainly worth it.
I
Well,
would
if
like to
it's-
tell.
All right, so, and Allison, how did your previous town do this? Did they even ever explore this, or no? Always pay?
In Marblehead, they do not send out copies of the warrants to the residents. My
Really?
understanding is that Nahant does it because it's part of the town bylaw.
This
Tony,
town-
is that correct?
Yes,
That's correct.
Yeah,
It
so
is.
in Marblehead, we did not do this. And the warrant was solely posted onto the town website as well as to the town bulletin boards. And that was it.
Were there paper copies available if somebody wanted to? go to-
Yes, there were. They could go to the selectman's office and get a paper copy if they wanted to.
And it was like just the warrant and recommendations with
Correct.
what all the rest of the,
Nope,
Is Dan on the call?
no, he's not.
If I can weigh in, I was listening in on your conversation, and so obviously this year, unless the charter were or the bylaw were to change, you're still required to send something to everybody's house. What that is includes your recommendation of the articles, right?
yes,
So there's a ton of appendices in the book that you're saying, might not necessarily be included by the bylaw. So under the current bylaw, you could send a trimmed down version and then have larger versions available at the town hall the day people come to town meeting. And then if you wanted to change that and you wanted to just publish it electronically and provide hard copies at town meeting in the future, you'd have to put a warrant article
we'd have
this
to.
year
to change.
amending the bylaw.
Yep. And the deadline for submitting articles is January something, right?
31st.
30.
But we
oh,
can ask though, right, Tony? It's okay to ask.
Yeah,
But you're saying it's a 3-year process. If we ask this year, next year we have to amend the bylaws, and the third year we get to do it.
Well,
and it might, no, it would just be, if you pass it this year, then the next annual town meeting, you wouldn't have to do it.
well,
If you
change-
if you put a warrant article on there this year.
a change to the bylaw would certainly give us a good survey as
Oh,
to whether people want it or not. Because if,
That's a
if
good
we-
idea.
That's why I said sure, because I didn't really know just asking the question doesn't, what's it get you? You might as well just put it, the FinCom, if this is something you guys really want to do, or you could, the committee, it could, request a warrant article amending the bylaw to the selectmen to be included in the warrant.
yeah, and then people would vote on it. They would get a book. They would vote on it based on whether they want electronic copies or a slimmed down version or whatever. And I mean, it's fairly simple. It costs $8.95 to print these things. We do 1,800. What's the average attendance at town meeting?
oh,
300,
Well,
300.
I would say around 300.
Okay.
300 is probably a good guess.
So we print 500 books or 400 books so that you have enough for everybody that shows up at town meeting.
Which is like 25.
Right. Only thing I would correct you on there, Peter, is you wouldn't be voting on whether to send out a slimmed down version. It would either to not send anything at all
Mhm.
would be the bylaw change. Because right now you could send a slimmed down version. My understanding, as long as it includes your recommendations of every warrant article, you could send just that if you wanted to. It probably saves you some money. Not a ton, because you're still going to send 1,800 copies out. And there is a financial piece to it, but there's also a timing component. If you guys change the bylaw to just having to do an electronic version, and having that posted to the website 14 days ahead of town meeting, that buys the finance committee an extra 2 or 4 weeks, right? Because
Yep.
it's got to go to the printer, get printed, get in the mail.
Yep.
So there's
Right.
so changing the bylaw buys you more time, saves the town money. Just sending a slimmed down version, I don't think really moves the needle enough to make it worth it.
Well,
So would we, if we change the bylaw? So if we change the bylaw, we'd still have to print copies.
This year, yes.
Even after we change the bylaw, because there are people who don't own computers or electronics. So we would still have to have copies available 2 weeks in advance for people, whether they come and get them or we mail them to them. But, there are people that don't have computers. Could we be, and I mean, not to say sued, but could we be taken to, task because there are certain people that can't get that information?
Well, it would be
Well,
downright illegal.
If
Right.
you,
we'd still
If
have
you
them
change- if
available
you-
at the town hall.
right, if you change the bylaw just to eliminate the part of delivering it on the doorstep of every registered voter, yes, you're still going to buy 500 copies.
Mhm.
Yes, you're going to want those 2 weeks before town meeting, but you're not buying 1,800 copies. So you're saving money there. And because you're not mailing it out, you're probably saving another week. They're just being picked up and brought to the town hall. They don't have to go to the post office and get into the mail to be delivered 7 days ahead. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, yeah. I mean, to me, there's the time saver for us, the money, and obviously the saving of the trees.
So the bylaw article seems like a sensible way to go.
Yeah,
Just to cover all the bases most efficiently. To just start there.
So Dan could help draft something. You guys, as long as you vote on it and send it to the selectmen before the end of January, I'm sure they'd be happy to add it to the warrant.
I think we need to be very careful about how we present this. I think that we're in many ways a very traditional town. And I think for good reasons, a lot of people in town value our kind of classic town meeting style of government. And I think there's a possibility that any change would be seen by some as shrinking our commitment to classic New England town meeting. So I just think it needs to be presented. I think this sounds like, I guess I'm allowed to say, I think this sounds like a good idea. And I think we should propose it. But I just think it should be presented in a very
Gentle.
gentle, careful way.
I agree. Believe me, the one thing I love about town meeting is the fact that I get my book and I go up there and my voice is heard. So,
That's
the
it.
fact that I may make sure that my iPad is fully charged so that it lasts throughout the meeting.
Hey, Allison, just a random question here. How much of that $8.95 is the mailing cost and how much is the production cost, you know?
I don't. I just looked it up in the accounting system. I can pull the actual invoice when I get into the office tomorrow, and it probably has a breakout.
Because, I was reading the bylaws in here, if I may quote, it says, let's see, the finance committee shall consider the various articles therein and shall cause it to be delivered by mail or otherwise. Copy of each article in the warrant with their recommendations appended thereon, et cetera, to every household.
So the key is the
If we
cause
were
it to be delivered is an active requirement.
Right, that's
So
what
if we were
Dan
to
said.
send out to every household, there's a voter, a postcard that says, this warrant book is available in the town hall, it's available in the library, it's available online. And that's done 7 days before the date of the meeting. If Dan was here, he could answer the question. I mean, it seems like we're complying with just a postcard. And then we just print out how many.
Yeah,
warrants.
well, hang on, read.
I would,
I asked Dan that question specifically. And let me go here. So my first question was, is an entirely digital distribution permissible? And his response was, oh, and I, no, just, I guess my question was, is an entirely digital distribution permissible? And Mike added the comment at the end, likely not practical with some residents not digitally enabled. And his response was, yes, I think, whoops, sorry, that's the wrong question. The answer is unlikely. Your instinct is correct. Given our bylaws language, we need to ensure that your report is delivered to every household containing a registered voter,
Okay.
including those without digital access.
All right. You know, if that's his take on it, you know, that's fine. We should just move on though, because we can't affect the change in this anytime soon.
All right, so I'll do some homework. So I'm gonna loop back with Dan Script. It sounds like I don't really need to talk to Dave Conlon. We've kind of said if we're gonna proceed, it's easier and more efficient to just put in a bylaw change article. And I'm going to talk to Diane
I think,
just to see what, do we have email addresses? Are we capable of recording email addresses? What's that side of it look like?
So you think that there's a privacy issue?
There may be a privacy issue.
Hmm.
You know, whatever Marblehead's doing, I
this
mean,
is-
that seems to be legal, and Allison talked about it. I mean, if we'd have to change the bylaws, so that's gonna take 3 years.
But Allison, does the town use email the way we were talking about it in Marblehead?
Oh, no, they don't distribute the booklet via
At all.
email.
Right. See, I think I personally think there will be privacy issues, and there should be. I wouldn't.
The only way that we had residents' emails was if they signed up through the website to get alerts from the website or something. It was something that they had to do on their end. We didn't actively go and get their emails.
Yeah, it's funny. I think when Michelle Capano was on, so while I work for a bank, I work on the facility side, so I don't know much about the banking, but I believe when we were talking about this last time, Michelle Capano, there was some, you got to be very careful about having mass distribution via email because.
But certainly we could just have it on the website and people could go there.
Absolutely. And download it. Yeah, absolutely.
I think the email is tricky anyway. People are changing their emails and for all the reasons that people have advanced.
Right. I'm fine with
right,
it.
and if people are signed up for updates on the website, they would be alerted by an email that it got posted to the website. So then they could go and check it out that way.
Involved with email at all. I guess the next step is that you get with Dan, Bob.
Yep.
Sorry, did I cut out?
Yes.
I was saying, as Allison said, someone can sign up for notifications to the website by entering their email there. So just by posting it on the website, if they check off the right alert, they would get notified to their email that way.
Tony, has that always been the case and I just didn't know I could do that?
No, that's new with the new site.
Oh, okay. So should we look for that now? I mean, is it there now?
Yeah, you can, I think it's on the right side somewhere. You can enter your email for alerts or notifications.
Okay, thank you. We'll look for it.
You guys didn't ask for my opinion. I'm gonna give it to you unsolicited. I'd be careful about, trying to get creative within the current letter of the bylaw because people are used to a certain thing. If you're going to change things up, as Barbara had mentioned, you know, being a traditional town, I think you're going to want to go to the voters formally before you make any sort of change. So I'd be a little cautious about, you know, trying to get creative in that sense, even though there seems to be some room. And yeah, I mean, I think your best bet is you put it in front of the voters, and if the voters say yes, you have your direction. If they say no, you have your direction. You know, that's the best way to do it. That's the beauty of open town government, right? So
Yes.
Right.
But
Okay.
I think we should be prepared if we do that. And what Tony and I are both saying, I think we all, for a quite substantive and potentially long, and from some people, not happy, unhappy campers, discussion at town meeting about it. I think we need to understand how deeply some people are committed to our traditional town meeting, and that anything that appears to be
To limit
Yep.
information, right? So we don't want them to think that we're trying to limit information.
exactly. And I think you will get people who will be lined up at the microphone, worried about that. I'm not saying it doesn't mean we
That's
shouldn't do
why-
it.
no,
Tony?
but Barbara, that's why, that's the beauty of it, is you don't go into it with like that you want to get a yes or you want to get a no. It's a feeler to the public to ask them what they would prefer. You know, so you tell them the advantages of both sides, the disadvantages of both sides, and you let them decide. And then
Yep.
it's not like you're pushing one way or the other.
Good point, right. So it has to be truly open meeting when we will get long discussion.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
And we'll listen.
I hope so.
Of course we will. That's what we do.
Okay. All right. I think we've kind of got marching orders here. Do we need a motion to do this? We probably do.
Shouldn't we get the background information?
Yeah, I was gonna say
And-
maybe the motion is next meeting, not this meeting, if there's going to be a motion.
All right, well, then we need to also be really careful about how I mean, I'm just singing to the choir, how we phrase it in the warrant article. So that's going to take a little wordsmithing.
Okay, well, I'll talk to Dan, kind of brief him on this sense of this meeting, explain the concerns, and ask him to draft some tentative language.
Yeah.
Are we premature for that? or
Oh,
no?
that's.
Okay,
saves a
I mean,
step in the-
I mean, worst comes to worst, we may decide at some point to pull it, or it gets voted down on town meeting floor and we don't have to worry about it.
yeah, all of the above are possibilities. Okay. I just, for grins, ran off to the Marblehead bylaws. And theirs is kind of interesting. It just says the warrant for each town meeting shall be served by posting an attested copy thereof at Abbott Hall and 10 other conspicuous places in town.
I wonder what they are.
We don't have 10 conspicuous places in our town.
But what they do, they post it at each of their polling locations.
Ah,
Oh,
They have
I
10 polling locations.
was thinking that was like Maddie's and
Right.
It's the schools, it's Abbott Hall, it's the municipal Mary Alley building, the library, yeah, all their
It's
polling.
not
locations.
Shubies? It's not
Okay.
Shubies?
it would get more attention at Shuby's.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
Maddie's, as Bob
Maddie's,
said.
Maddie's sail loft.
Shubies, for sure Shubies.
Yeah, the Boston.
yeah, exactly, the Boston, the Eastern.
Right,
Oh,
we would never we would never actually look at town hall or the polling places, but those other places we'd be looking for sure.
Okay,
Interesting.
so much for that. The other agenda item was just topics for next town meeting. And I saw Tony and Allison, you sent out a schedule, which quite honestly, I haven't even looked at yet, but maybe we should talk through it just in the context of how we need to schedule our meetings.
So I did, yesterday, I sent out budget templates to each of the department heads with a memo asking them to complete their templates and get them back to me by December 28th. Then Tony and I are gonna schedule, oh, I just noticed Tony dropped off the meeting. But Tony and I are scheduling to meet with each of them to discuss their budget requests during the first week of January. So that's kind of, you know, our budget process with them. But Tony did send along a schedule that kind of lays out, you know, all the dates for when he plans to present to the Board of Selectmen and things like that. Do you have it in front of you, Bob, or?
I was looking for it to see whether I could just throw it up on,
Yeah,
share it. Where is it?
Bob, did it only come to you?
I don't know.
I don't remember seeing it, which isn't the same thing as I didn't get it.
Right, no,
All right, I'm back.
I understand.
Hi. Everything okay, Tony?
My phone died, so I'm on
Oh.
another phone.
Wow.
we're talking
I
about,
was about to say the part that Bob was reading from Marblehead, our bylaw says the same thing, except it's 4 places and it's 14 days or 7 days in advance.
Oh, okay. So there may be another section of
We have to do
Marbleheads
both.
that speaks to
Where do we post? What's our conspicuous places?
Library, town hall, police
Captain Seaside.
station, and yeah, I think it's,
Cool.
yeah, I think fire station probably.
okay. So I see a blue line around this, so I think you can see this.
You're not sharing if that's what you're talking about.
Oh, this is Zoom. You have to press share yet again.
There
Okay,
you go.
there we go.
Oh, that's nice. Is this available to us, Tony?
I can forward it if Tony
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
mind. You okay with that, Tony?
What are you guys looking at?
The budget timeline you sent.
Oh, yep. Yep, you can share that with the rest of the, yes, I wanted you to share with them, yep.
Okay. All right, so when we're done here, but right now, I'm sharing the screen so they can see it.
I think one thing I wanted to talk about with this was, you know, I threw a date in there for CPC, but I think what would be best would be somebody from the Finance Committee to talk to Lynn Spencer and kind of come to an agreement on a date by which they would, you know, finalize the CPC articles to send to the Board of Selectmen so that the Board of Selectmen can include them in the warrant and send them to you guys. So you have enough time to, you know, write up your recommendations before you have to send the book to the printer.
Right, that was one of
If
our last
you-
minute, that was our last minute thing last year, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of happens. It happens every year. And, you know, so I think if you guys just maybe connect, the chairs connect or something and come up with a date to target. So
Okay.
your book has to go to the printer Friday, April 14th. So
That's
I wrote in
soon.
this
Look at this.
Wednesday.
This is soon.
It's always.
Oh, this is scary.
This is
This-
scary.
I'm
Look at
typing
that.
this out was, oh yeah.
Come on, we
this
haven't
is
even
very
celebrated
scary.
Christmas yet.
I know, but look at that.
What are we
So-
looking at?
I
What's
know.
here?
When would we want to give, what sort of deadline would we want to give the CPC about?
So I put on here Wednesday, March 15th.
Oh, that's not,
And
We need
then,
to
so that's
scroll
a
down.
month before you guys, have to have your book finalized.
So,
I don't know if that's what you want. I don't know if you want to talk, if that is something that CPC can handle, but that's just what I threw in there for a placeholder.
and
I
the
like
thing
that.
is, I don't know what CPC or how CPC runs their process, but I have to assume that at some point in, the beginning of January or the middle of January, they have 2 or 3 items that they already know that they're going to, put forth. And as time goes on, they meet like we do. We meet and we kind of go through the first set of articles and we approve them. Why can't they do the same thing? And then as they approve their quote items, maybe they come and present 3 or 4 of them so we can get them cut out of the way.
Their grant application deadline is January 27th. So
They
don't
need
even
to know by the 27th then.
No, they don't even start reviewing and
Oh,
the application. That's the due date for people to submit an application by.
ugh. Yeah,
That's-
but haven't they received any like already? Or
Oh, don't you think it's like the things we see? They come to
No.
probably, if their deadline's the 27th, don't they get it like the 26th?
No, they're meeting, I think, next week or the week after. No, December 13th, I think it is what they're targeting for their community meeting discussing the application and the process. So if someone from the finance committee wants to join that or something, that's more of like an open meeting for anybody that's interested in applying and has any questions. But it might be a good time to have a talk with them.
I wonder if that piecemeal rolling approach though is really it just feels a little messy to me. We don't have our hands around the whole thing, and if their stuff comes in dribs and drabs, which is what I think you're suggesting, Peter, right?
well, yeah, not so much dribs and drabs, but if they like, I don't know how many CPC things we had last year, but if there were 10 of them, maybe they give us 5 so we can get through the first 5. If they're, like, there has to be some that they get, like, I'm just gonna throw out there, like a playground application. Okay, well, yes, we're gonna move forward with a playground application. They know that, but like and I'll give you an
What?
example
I don't.
from last
ahead,
year.
Peter.
The doors for the life-saving station, the flagpole, things like that came from the town.
I think
I would-
I think it's different though, Peter, although I could be wrong. I
Yeah,
think that they have to get all of them to figure out how much money they have and how they're going to distribute it.
oh yeah, you're right.
That's right, Judy. I was just going to say that they, even if they might have a feeling about an application, they're not going to make a formal decision on it until they review everything and see how they can kind of move the pieces around from the different categories and their budget limitations to
Yeah.
make everything work. So I just think if you have a conversation with Lynn about, trying to get them a little bit earlier in the process so you guys have time to review and make recommendations would help.
When are we going to parcel out the liaison assignments? Because wouldn't that come under that heading?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And then it was because I think, well, Barbara and I don't remember who. It might have been Barbara and Julie, if it's got the library, right? So I don't actually remember who has what.
Maybe that should be an agenda item on one of our next meetings to make sure
Our
we get
very
those.
next meetings. Yeah,
Yeah.
think about whether you want to volunteer for anything.
We
Like,
did, Deborah, you and I did the school. We did Johnson School. We did the school committee.
Do you want to do that again,
So
Deborah?
we,
Sure.
Sure.
I mean,
I'd
I
be
think the
hap-
Lynn one is, I think the CPC one is interesting too.
I'd
but-
like to
but-
continue with the school. I like,
Yep. I would too. But I think maybe if we put that on the agenda for our next meeting to see if we can get those
Yep.
department liaisons.
I agree.
That's a
Okay.
great idea. And
Timing-
speaking, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, timing wise, if you see on this calendar here, our goal is to get you the, pretty much final draft of there's always could be some changes here and there, but final draft of the budget by February 15th. So that means we will have gone through our internal process of reviewing recommendations with the department heads and putting together our budget. So if you guys assign your liaisons, that would be a good time to have meetings scheduled, because at that point, their budget, has been reviewed and included in the draft, and you guys will have numbers to, talk to them about.
So, yeah, you're suggesting we wait to have meetings with the various department heads until after February 15th.
No,
Yeah, because you won't have a budget. You won't have a proposed budget in front of you yet. I guess you could, but you wouldn't have a proposed budget
It
yet.
wouldn't be final, but when do we get to the point where it's, directionally correct enough that it's worth the time to have the conversations?
That date. There's only going to
February
be
15th.
after that date. After that date, a lot of the changes that occur after that date are more like warrant articles, language, order of the articles, that sort of stuff will change. And then CPC, of course, comes in later. But as far as February 15th, the budget should be 99% finalized, unless, of course, in the past, I think you guys had some changes you wanted, and then we brought it back to the selectmen. They made a change. There's small things that might happen after that, but that is the date that I think you'll have real numbers that you can discuss with department heads.
Yeah, and Tony, this is Dana. We need to have time to propose any changes to the budget, and so it can flow back through the selectmen and back to us. So that's what we're basically here for.
Yeah, that's always a way to do it. Obviously preferred by me is that your budget and the selectmen's budget are the same. But remember, the budget that gets presented at town meeting is your budget. We send you guys our draft, and then you guys actually own the budget. The selectmen own the warrant.
Yeah, that's an
so that's
important point, Tony. I agree. And it's like we just need the time to do our work, our analysis, and then float it back through and get it finalized. So.
Right.
All right, so if we wait till February, if we begin, I'm not going to try to lead the witness here. If we begin on February 15th, that means we have 2 months, half of February, all of March, half of April, 2 months, to do all, to talk with all of the department heads, do basically all the work.
But the difference is, so the liaison thing worked well last year. And I think we waited until we had our budget and started, well, let's meet with the fire department. You know what? We have this timeline in front of us. We can literally get in touch with, the fire chief and the police chief and the school committee. And you say, okay, we're going to get this budget on the 15th of February. You know what? On the 21st of February, I want to meet with the fire department, or I want to meet, that way there, we can schedule this stuff ahead of time and be a little, maybe a half a step or a step ahead of where we were last year.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with meeting with whoever your liaison is, fire department, even in advance of this thing being finalized.
Right, like,
Tell us
literally,
what your issues are here, and if
yeah,
they're all up in arms because they need new Scott packs and Tony doesn't want to give them Scott packs or whatever it is.
Yeah, each liaison can decide, can work with the department to kick off, to decide when they want to kick it off.
yeah. Tony, do you historically get budgets back from, I'm gonna say, the fire chief, like early or late? Or, because it's one of these things, if the fire department
Early,
early, right? So if
early, but what happens is all the department heads submit their budget and capital requests to Allison. Allison and I compile everything together and figure out what we can and can't do. Then we have follow-up meetings. So we actually have initial meetings where the department heads present those to us. Then we compile everything. Then we'll have a follow-up meeting with the department heads and explain to them what we think we can and can't do. And if there's, something that we have in the can't do pile that they are saying it's a must-have, we'll go back and maybe try and make some adjustments here or there. But we're dealing with the big picture. So they get them all to us pretty early. We compile everything, and then we give them the heads up before. I try to give them a heads up what that final number is before I put it in front of the selectmen for a final vote to go to you.
Right, but our liaisons
so-
can be at those meetings. If our liaison is at the meeting where they're presenting it to you, and then you come back and say, okay, we're not buying Scotch packs because, we just bought them. They could be at the follow-up meeting and hear, and basically be involved in the back and forth. That's going to give us more insight into, one, the whole process, and two, you know what? I don't know, maybe the liaison says, hey, Tony, you really need to find a way to pay for Scotch packs for the fire department because it's a must-have. Like they're going to be involved in all of that. I don't know if you want us there, if it's, but I just think that having the liaison part of that whole, we get presented just like you get presented, and when you present back to say, hey, we can't give you this, at least we're there and we can hear what's happening both ways. Because I think what happened last year was you got them, we got them, and then you went, you got them, and then you went back to the different departments and said, we can't do this. And then our liaison met with them, and it was kind of like, well, we need to buy a new fire truck, and Tony says we can't get one or whatever. And I know I'm being kind of short.
Right.
But I think if we're involved in the process from the beginning, it may make things a lot easier for us at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The trouble is with that, guys, and I agree. I agree because I think that there's a couple of good things about that. It'll shortcut the back and forth, but we will need to be mindful that we don't overstep that Tony's the boss.
Oh,
right?
right.
So I don't, what I'm worried about then is they're never sure what audience they have to play to, and so I don't want them to think that we have the end all and be all say individually, when really Tony's looking at the bigger picture all at one time.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, no,
Yeah.
absolutely.
There's advantages and disadvantages to what Peter proposed. I'd be happy to meet with those liaisons after they met with the department heads and explain, why the final version is different from the requested version, on a more in-depth conversation than what we are able to accomplish in these meetings. I can do that too. I can make time for that.
I think we did that last year, I seem to remember.
Yeah, I do too. I just thought instead of you having to present back to the fire department, and I'm using them as an example, present back to the fire department and then have to meet with us, we could all meet together. And you have to explain to the fire chief that, hey, I can't, we can't give you all of this budget because XYZ. And instead of having to do that to the fire chief and then have to do it again for the liaison, just have one meeting.
Yeah, I understand. I got you. Let me think about it. Let me
I'm thinking
ponder
about
it.
your free time, Tony. You know, you got some young kids at home that you have to.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
Oh,
But the other thing too is a lot of those meetings are during the workday. I know you guys are limited as well, so
right.
It's easier. It's part of my job to make myself available after hours. Not so much, you know, it's part of their role too, especially when it comes to this process, but it's easier for me to make time. I don't mind making time than like having them, you know, stay late for that and all that. So let me think about it though, Peter. I get where you're getting, what you're trying to say, and let me think about it.
Yeah, if we can avoid superfluous meetings, that's certainly a benefit.
Right, exactly. And by the way, we should welcome Dan.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
Dan.
Hi, Dan.
You're looking
Um,
good, Dan.
Hi, Dan. Hope you're feeling better.
Thank you so much. The good surgeons at Leahy buttoned me up and sent me home.
Oh, good.
But
I do have a question. Let me ask a different question, and I'm probably not the right place, but I'm going to do it anyway. There was a housing advisory subcommittee that was supposed to happen, and I was going to be the liaison for that, but I haven't heard anything more about that.
So we're going to have a meeting in mid-December. There's nothing from that committee that's gonna, I don't think there's anything from that committee that's gonna find its way onto this year's warrant. It's just not enough time. But it's still something that you guys should pay attention to. So I
Can you
will,
send-
I'll send you I'll let you know when it gets scheduled.
Thank you. That'd be great. Send me the link. That'd be terrific.
Mhm.
All right, so why don't we do this? Let's schedule a meeting for early January. And in that meeting, we will do two things. We will assign the liaisons and schedule out the meetings with each of the departments, which will likely begin, I'm guessing, early February, because I know that's in advance of when we get the final budget, but my sense is that we're going to have something by that point that's close enough to make those meetings productive.
Okay, I think last time we met, we talked about you scheduling out the entire season.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that in that January meeting.
Oh, okay, in that meeting. Okay. Perfect.
And to the extent that we can retain the roles and responsibilities of last year, I think that might streamline the effort.
yes,
So what about the bylaw possibility that we would need to wordsmith?
That'll be part of the January meeting as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I can add another thing there, in the past, the finance committee has put some other, they've put together data about, how the town compares as far as tax rate or water rates or sewer rates or anything like that. That's stuff that can be done in January. And also, I think we maybe revisit, the priorities of the budget from the finance committee and myself. I don't see any changes from my end, but we'll be developing a budget at that point, Allison and I. So, we could have discussions about, what you guys want to see as far as stabilization and OPEB and that sort of stuff goes at that point too.
Okay. So an early look at the budget.
Not so much a look at the budget, but just a discussion, just like I would meet with a department head, I wouldn't mind meeting with you guys in early January about what your priorities are and what you want to see. Because again, the preference is to have the same budget, even though it's yours. If there's anything I can tackle with the selectmen in our version that you guys are looking for, the better,
All
right?
right, so maybe we need two meetings then. We need a meeting where we figure out what our priorities are. If,
Well, okay, if we do that and that we can wordsmith in that meeting, that'd be good.
so, and again, I'm thinking out loud. So if we had a meeting really early in January, shortly after the new year, and then another meeting more towards the middle of the month, so we can do the assignments in that first meeting, and we can do what our priorities are at that first meeting. And then the second meeting would be like a working session with Tony to talk about those priorities. And finalize any wordsmithing on the article that came out of the first meeting too.
So one other thing too, Bob,
Well-
Dana, can I mention that as a budget, maybe an agenda item, maybe not in the budget meetings, but an update from the projects on water and sewer, where we are, on budget, so forth, for January, February.
Yep, okay.
Bob, we have to be careful. If we want a warrant article done, we have to have it done by January, right?
January 31st, I believe, according
Right.
to Tony. Yeah, so
Yes.
I just pulled up a calendar here. January the 5th is a Thursday. So if we want to stick to the Thursday thing, we could do a meeting January the 5th and then another meeting 2 weeks later, January the 19th.
Not the 19th, isn't, oh, it's okay. Huh, okay,
Yeah,
sure.
So the
Okay.
5th and the 19th.
yeah. I mean, do we see any need for another meeting like later in December?
Hearing none.
That's getting
Seeing
pretty,
and hearing none. Yeah, exactly.
So I guess the one question I have is alternating or being cautious of the selectmen's meetings. Because I'm not the selectmen meetings on the first and third Thursday of the month, or is it second and fourth?
Don't know.
Because Tony,
First and third Wednesday.
oh, Wednesday. Okay, so we're good at
First and
Thursday
third
then.
Wednesday. Yep. We're gonna likely be purchasing another Zoom account. Because, and I know you still have, people that are on multiple committees, and obviously residents want to be able to attend everything. But we have so many different committees fighting over Zoom accounts right now. With the short-term rental, with housing, CPC, you guys, Board of Selectmen, open space, there's a school committee. So we're probably going to buy another one that you'll have access to. So you won't have to worry about competing for Zoom access, at least.
Well, that's great news.
All right, yeah, so just let us know which one you want us to use and we're good. And Tony, I don't know whether you must have gotten the second message. You never called me back. So I figured out
Yes.
my thing didn't work.
Well, your second message said, "Don't call me back."
Right,
For the
exactly.
record.
No, I'm not complaining at all. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. You did nothing.
Yeah. No, I heard. Yeah. So I'm glad you got that worked out.
Yeah, good. So, all right, my last question then is, I forget how we worked it. Some sort of a web storage account where we can store drafts and budgets and various documents and share them. Did the town give us one or did we make our own?
you made it.
There was a Dropbox account that I know Allison would utilize to put new budgets and backup worksheets in so that you guys could access it that way.
Okay, and was that a town maintained thing or?
It was a-
No,
yeah,
I
it's
don't
a
believe
town
it's a town.
Dropbox, but it's a town Dropbox, but when you create a folder, you can authorize who has access and,
Okay,
Correct, yep.
but it's yours,
Administrative.
you guys are hosting it, not us.
yeah,
Okay,
Correct.
right.
all right, so we'll have to get that set up and going too. That should be easy. Okay, all right, so meetings January the 5th, January the 19th. And between the two of those meetings, we'll have liaisons and we'll have a detailed week by week schedule for the remainder of the time. And okay, that's all I can think of.
I have a couple questions for Tony, if I could.
Sure.
Tony and Allison, are there, can you preview anything about this upcoming town meeting? Any highlights or controversial or non-controversial items we're going to be working through?
I think one thing that you should all be aware of is that Tony's currently in negotiations with all of the collective bargaining agreements. I think that's something to point out. So as of right now, salaries are being negotiated for the DPW, fire, and police unions.
And how does that look so far?
Infant stages. We've gotten some proposals, not all of them, and we're reviewing them.
And how do you think that'll impact our budget?
What do you mean by that?
Well, maybe,
Obviously,
obviously they're gonna look for more money. And,
Yep.
It's an inflationary environment. Taxes, I don't know how taxes will be affected by these bargaining agreements. So, you won't be held to this, whatever you answer, but, just how does it look like at this point in the budget?
it doesn't look like anything in the budget right now. Allison and I are still in the process of, figuring out what the town can even afford as far as our overall budget goes next year. And then, you're separating the funds into different buckets for proper usage, right? So, you're not going to use free cash for salary items. So we have to do that calculation. I mean, honestly, what it comes down to, the way I approach these negotiations is I open the door to the union reps to come in and make their proposal. Nothing is personal about it with me. It comes down to, what the town can afford. So there's so many different items in each contract that, a base pay increase versus, well, how does that project out for overtime? How does that project out for other, costs that are tied to that base? What does that look like for staffing numbers? Does it look like we're going to have the same crew over the next 3 years, or new people coming in, and are they coming in at a lower step? So there's so many different factors. It's hard to really say or project, how it looks for the budget right now.
I agree. It's probably not a fair
you know-
question, Tony, but one other thing too, how's the tax revenue looking going into next year? I mean, if we approach it from that point, then we have an idea.
Yeah.
So do we know?
Yeah. Well,
Is that?
Allison, do you
to me?
know?
So I guess
Yeah,
I
you
don't
can
understand the
answer.
question, because we can only go up by 2.5% for taxes.
That's the tax
Right. So that
rate,
number is fixed.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
but the overall tax revenue is
the local receipt revenue, so the other, small bucket items like the motor vehicle excise and things like that.
Yeah, well, the top line, whatever that top line is.
Yeah, so I started taking a look at this and projecting for next year, and I can share, my revenue projections once I get them a little bit more refined. But honestly, I don't see a lot of growth in our local receipt revenue. I'm probably projecting like a 2% increase for motor vehicle excise. You have to remember that, the Coast Guard housing rental line, that used to be a revenue line, that's gonna be zero for FY24. So that's a
Well,
big,
but it's also a zero expense, the
it's,
expense,
right, we're taking
right?
it off the expense side, correct. But I have no idea about state revenues right now. There's been nothing, no news from the state of what they're projecting. So right now I'd probably do a conservative estimate of 2 to 3%.
Okay,
But yeah, it's the revenue side, it's a pretty conservative, increase for FY24.
okay, just wanted to get a feel for the top down look at that. The
Mhm.
revenue side with taxes and also, any big items coming up if it's these contract negotiations, if they're gonna be.
Yeah, so the other thing I'm doing right now is I'm revamping the debt schedule. So I'm kind of taking a look at what that's going to look like now that, we passed a lot of borrowing items last year and when those principal and interest payments will actually start. So I'm working on all of that right now, and that'll have some impact too.
Thank you.
Mhm.
As well, as far as policy, the short-term rental committee said that they believe that they're going to have something ready to submit to the selectmen. That schedule is unknown right now because, well, certainly they have to have it to us by the end of January, but if their bylaw triggers zoning in any sense, then it'll have to go to the planning board for their process. You guys will have the warrant article the same time the planning board does, but you won't have their recommendation yet. But that is likely to be on the warrant and certainly going to draw some attention.
Yeah, a lot of chatter about that.
And the finance committee, a lot of the talk there is all policy, but there's a financial component. There is a local receipt or local revenue derived from that. So, you guys might want to weigh in.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but last year we were talking about $100,000, correct?
Yeah, I would say anywhere from 80 to 120 would be my annual projection right now.
Would you explain that, please? What that 80 to 120 is about and for?
When you, basically it works the same as a local meals tax. So if you were to rent a short-term rental through, let's say, Airbnb, you pay a local tax when you make that rental. That amount of money goes to the state. The state compiles it and sends us a check, every quarter.
Yeah, I sort of knew that. So that's what you're talking about? That you're expecting 80
Yeah.
to 120?
We have that
Yeah.
much rental going on?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I think we do.
A lot.
Boy, that surprises me.
It's a pretty high tax amount too. I forget the exact percentage, but yeah, there's a decent amount of rentals going on in town. I mean, the policy discussion, it's controversial, and I think that bringing finances into it is a sensitive subject because it's the policy and the characteristics of the community is more important. But it should be part of the conversation, the financial aspect of it. And I just think that, coming from the perspective of the finance committee, you guys are more in a position to provide that type of opinion than, a committee that's just looking at the policy.
It's fair to say too that the people of the town are somewhat concerned about their neighborhoods in short-term rentals. And I keep hearing it from people, friends and family around town. And so that's why it's kind of a big interest item.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Again, the beauty of open town government, open town meeting, everyone has a voice. Everybody can make a decision. It doesn't, the state law doesn't really give us the authority to prohibit completely, but it does allow us to regulate it. So it's more about, I guess what I'm saying for you guys to think about is, what's that revenue like? What is the value of it? And how does that get impacted by potential regulation?
Yeah, it's probably not going to be zeroed out. I mean, what the regulations have been talked about, it just might be different from what it is now. The revenue.
Right. Right. That number could shrink. That 80 to 120.
Right. Public comment?
Public comment, exactly. Are we okay? So do we have any public? I don't see any.
Motion to adjourn then?
I think a motion to adjourn is in order.
So
I will
made.
second that.
All right.
Excellent.
Do you have to have a roll call from everybody, or can we just move along?
No, roll call.
Roll call.
Barbara, aye.
Vanderslice, aye, if nobody else is jumping in.
McMacken, aye.
Deborah, you're on mute. Zahora, aye. And Barbara, you're on mute as well.
She and I.
ADI.
Lauren, I.
Well, that's unanimous.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you
All right.
all.
Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
all. We'll see
Have a
you on
good
the 9th
holiday.
or the
Take
5th.
Yeah, happy holidays.
All right.
Yeah, Merry
Bye-bye.
Christmas.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Very good
Right.
meeting. Thank you.